Hey, it is your buddy. Peace and harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in on a great viewer question. When things really get foggy, when things really get blurry, when things really begin to enmesh and the lines begin to become blurred, basically what happens when the narcissist does not want you to belong? They just don't want you to fit in to the group, their group, or just sort of into a social setting. In other words, you're having a difficulty with that relationship just sort of being, communicated out in the open, or they just don't want you to know the full story. So they're usually people who get into a certain extent or a certain degree of a relationship with someone who is narcissistic is going to find themselves at a point when things get real. In other words, it might be 2 or 3 years into the relationship, 5 or 7 years, for some people a little bit longer, depends on when you met. But there comes a time when either this individual is going to have to commit and prove themselves, and then basically commit and accept that you are the best fit for them. And then if so, then things get very real. And so that union in and of itself, I feel, oftentimes is very intimidating, triggering, fear-provoking for a narcissist. In other words, to live it all out loud is not how they roll. That ain't their tune. That ain't their drum. That's not what they're bouncing to. They've always got kind of two side streets going on. They don't really have like a main street and then let's go over there. They always have kind of two side streets that each other on the other end of the street, they don't know the other guy is there. But once in a while, you might kind of catch a glimpse between the trees. Is that them over there? And there seems to be another. There seems to be a duplicitous nature, a divided nature about this person. In other words, it's getting off balance. In other words, who they are out loud to their group, to the people who they're married to, have a family with, work with, etc., isn't the same with what they really have going on or on the side. And we're not talking about just going out for drinks or movies or restaurants. We're talking about, a conflict of interest, to the other parties involved, that it presents a specific issue, a moral issue, which creates a tension that usually is palpable for first and secondary supply when they're in that. And so yes, it's very demoralizing, but to look at that more as the feeling that we have to break away. We have to break perspective. We have to break apart. We have to split up. We have to go different ways. We're not growing together, or whatever it is that things come to, or you realize that you're getting your toes stepped on, or vice versa. There is no boundaries. There is no like whole person over there and then whole person over here that come together. It's kind of like you've got fragmented pieces that just keep sort of grinding on each other at some point. And no one, if there's no bigger party, if there's no one who's able to, clear the terms of the communication so that there isn't all sort of innuendo or wondering as if, then you're going to feel that sort of divide. And also the narcissist, I think, to disempower their supply, will sort of, splice them out so that they don't really feel connected with other areas of their life, which would be natural, normal. They just sort of keep them off in the rafters, off in the hall. They just keep you kind of in a separate locker room and not really in the game court where they're playing. They keep you kind of isolated, and then you might feel this as them not wanting you to belong, which is, I think, that becomes a real point of sort of not only contention with people, but I think it really amplifies up their attraction to this person, because they feel like they have some skin in the game for this person, and it takes on sort of a lottery or jackpot type of mentality. In other words, we had it good, And then, you might even keep playing harder even during the down times, and that's getting you ramped up and juiced up. And then you're just sort of on that ding ding, you're sort of you get kind of on a cycle where people get addicted to a tension, and it becomes a new normal for them with that person, which oftentimes can be very displeasant and very displeasurable when you're with somebody who's sort of making you, just telling you that you're broken, that you don't belong here, I think is a very big one. You can't fit in here, you're not connected here, you don't have what it takes, you're different, you're the odd man out, you're the weirdo, the whatever, which has nothing to do with reality. It's just sometimes, they're either, if you're in a sort of supply and then jockeying for position, and then you find yourself working too hard in the relationship, that's when people start getting a sort of a whiff of the feeling that something is not right here. I'm working too hard and I'm not getting enough in return. It feels, exhausting. It feels like it's lacking meaning and value, or at least the amount that you give, that you should also receive, and have a sort of this easy breezy feeling to some degree. And and so just kind of getting back to their question is that, yes, it's a manipulation tactic. It's a way for them to say back off, even though it should be normally, welcome arms, come on in. I mean, what do you have to fear? But if they're trying to block you out, they have, exit stage left. They have a whole nother scenario, a whole nother situation going on over there that they obviously want to block people out of. It's part of their control. A lot of narcissists are very much kind of control freaks like that. So when things get too real, when things get too close, when it's time to be genuine, and there's like this weird, icky feeling that they can't be genuine, or it's false, or very glib, very superficial, or sarcastic, and then you're like, well, yeah, maybe some of that is fun, but not when it's just hollow, and meaningless. And then you feel that you don't belong anymore. Not only do you not belong with them, but you don't feel that you belong at all. When maybe it's just like we've been saying, you are not an energetic match to someone who does not have empathy. It's just what it is. And we had a viewer who made a great comment. He said, I get it now. He said, just like some people can lick their nose, some people lack empathy. Just like some people can lick their nose, some people lack empathy. And that's exactly right. It's like some people are very tall. It's a physical, autonomic process. It's part of their really hardwiring. It's their personality traits. It's their overall characteristics that are very strong and rigid. They don't engage in a lot of change. They don't really tone it down. That's why these people might, be very off in their life cycles, or often what they should be doing at that time of life, because they just, they can't find a track and stick with it, or, they just haven't found the value of that yet, or they just don't want anyone else with them, to kind of, call them to task. Basically, sometimes relationships take work. I'm not feeling good. Oh, but this is important. The back and forth, and especially someone who is narcissistic, they want things their way, when it's their time, on their terms, and if it's important to them, and if it's, if it inconveniences you, either way, it does not make any difference to them. So it's like they're making the big thing is really, a lot of the little things are really the big thing. So you can have a gazillion little things with a narcissist that will just basically make you feel that you don't belong. You can't get too close to them. They're very, despite their come hither charm, they're oftentimes very much keep your distance. They're very much like, it's all about here, and it's just kind of like, there's nothing where you're standing. It's just kind of the assumption that they're trying to communicate, that there is really no, groove there that can be defined and moving forward. So it becomes a boundary problem, I would say, in those situations as well. A boundary meaning the narcissist also, as well as people who become their supply, they lack, control over boundaries. They lack assertive boundaries. They lack being assertive to their standards as well. They have a difficulty sort of knowing their boundary and then how to deal with it. Just like, snapping your fingers, just like, a knee-jerk reaction. If something hits, and you go, no, 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 I'm not doing that. Or when, and having like a quick comeback when somebody treats you, abusively, that you put an end to it right then and there, that you have a statement, 5 to 7 words that you go to all the time. So when you recognize it, it's just like, I don't need this. You don't say that to them, but you must understand what your boundaries are and when they're crossed. In other words, this is enough, but over here, like all this, it becomes extreme, so there's a lot of boundary violation. And then you don't really have a sense of belonging then with these people when it comes right down to it, which is very key and important for really being settled and feeling safe. You have to feel that you belong. Like a fish in water, like a bird in the air, you have to be and find and know your element and not try to deny it, or be something, and once again, I feel it's that same element of belonging, that's sort of social psychology of the need to have a group think. I mean, just look at what we're going through right now with this whole coronavirus. And several of my colleagues, in fact, really just really blew my mind at a couple conferences that I went to. Not only did one of my colleagues say that all this is going to bring us together. I mean, he's a very forward thinker, very progressive. I mean, higher dimensions. I mean, he is very, very intuitive and a very gifted healer. And he said, this is going to bring us all together. And I didn't quite know what he really meant. I mean, I knew what the statement was, but I didn't know the feeling, And so now I'm getting to know the feeling when he said that with this whole thing coming up. So you do have kind of a sense of renewed belonging in the world, which I think is really kind of cool because it helps to open your eyes a little bit wider than that teeny little, tweezer of a window that the narcissist will give you. Open up, all the windows, like open up your biggest window, like look, open up wide, get the big screen on, open up your eyes, look at all that's going on in the world, Italy shut down, quarantines, everything. You guys have been following it, but it's just a show. But, don't you feel a sense of belonging? Like we all have to take this seriously. Like, there's finally some agreement. And it took a lot of people to come to terms with the agreement, but now people are saying, okay, we get the seriousness. I get we can't get together. I get that we can't do that. I get, I understand this trip can't go. This is going to change the business. I mean, look at the stock market. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of shaking going on. So, but it's, and then the other thing also is that I also had a colleague who, this was June of last year. And she predicted this. Wow. Pretty cool. I mean, but anyway, there are some interesting lessons to be learned, things to be sort of observed and garnered while we're going through all this. And that is that feeling sort of like of unity and that, there is something bigger than man going on right now, i.e. this virus that we don't have a handle on. We don't have enough testing. We don't have enough capability. We don't have diagnostics, in terms of like, the result, the medications, the vaccines and things, we don't have this. So it's the virus has, i.e. something more of divine intelligence is showing its way, and so if you can kind of look at it that way, it gives you, at least for me, a feeling of reverence and respect. And here we go, this is real, and, you don't have to deny how you're feeling. I mean, you can get in touch with your feelings pretty quickly. I think this can be a game changer, a life changer, and a perspective changer. If it is for you guys, put a I get it, or it is a game changer or just something like that. But, I think a lot of people are getting some interesting perspectives as they have to change their lifestyle, and then what is this all with the toilet paper? I mean, I have never seen anything like this whole toilet paper situation. I mean, is it like this everywhere in the US now? I mean, toilet paper and toiletries and water are becoming like people are just amassing these. So anyway, so it gives you really a feeling of togetherness. I mean, no man is at greater risk or less risk than the next woman. Yes, those who are older, who have, pre-existing conditions, yes, but it'll hit all. In other words, the psychopath, the narcissist can't outsmart this. They are not above the law. They are not above the divine order. I mean, they are not above it. So if anything, I know a lot of people on the channel are like, well, what about karma? And I really want to know karma. Well, this can show you that, even the psychopath is not above the divine law. So it will have its way. And so if you can embrace that and know that it's powerful, I mean, that's where the power is and the reverence. And, to really give the glory unto that, I think is a really powerful, step that you can make in your life. And then how can you get richer into that glory or gratitude or feeling of belonging that you feel with life at large, not just the what I want to say, the cloistered away, what oftentimes can feel like a cloistering away, like a nunnery of you in the relationship where you feel that you're not able to go out and have a social life, or you're not able to get to know their friends or certain, parts of their family or their past or their future. You feel that, there's a part of them that you don't see up front, and it can be very, very difficult. And a lot of people don't know what the feeling is. They just know that something is off. So a lot of people then try to overwork and then outwork the feeling so that they're needed or depended on, in the relationship. So they end up suffering and taking a sacrifice to get that feeling of belonging. So it becomes a very difficult trade-off. But, it's important to realize the growth that you have you've come. Not only that, but what do you then really embrace, and how can you really discover more of what you are about? What makes you tick? Where do you belong? Where do you really find yourself attracted to? Or images, like I say on your recovery dates. You could go into a library or a cool bookstore or an art gallery and just kind of see, or a magazine shelf that has a gazillion magazines, and say, what catches my eye? And see what colors are you? What textures? What designs? What topics are you? And so if you find yourself drawn to something that you didn't, cooking, poetry, mechanics, I mean, you might, but you got to get the book. You got to get the hardcover. You got to have the vision board. You got to, have it out in front of you for you to take action. So you kind of have to get yourself to that action step and then you'll find a sense of belonging in community as you begin to then embrace that sort of inner golden, warmer feeling that feels like it's a little bit more on a path that is meaningful to you, that you're sort of either growing in the right pace and you're not regressing at the wrong pace. So you kind of feel, and you're gently trusting and getting a little bit of groove can help you to develop that self-trust. But the thing is the belonging is key. The feeling of belonging and the manipulation tool where the narcissist makes you feel that you don't belong or wants to make sure you don't feel that way, and it feels like they're going out of their way to make you feel unwelcome, lied to, being false to. I mean, you're like, if you put on any more of a false smile, that I could crack it with a hammer. I mean, sometimes it feels so false and it feels so inauthentic. So you have to look at what is real for you, and just say, what's so real is, and then just begin, if you have to communicate. But, for you, what's so real is, what so real for me is. And then find out what that is. I mean, if you can list 1 through 20 on your recovery journal and, write that out. What so real for me is. Or one thing that has always caught my attention is. And then write 1 through 20 and just list, even if it's, way out things that you would never do. At least I would be a real estate agent, or I would be a airline pilot, or I would be a snorkeling instructor, or I would teach, making seashells by the seashore. Just something, even if it's a chance to dream. If you do that, you'll open up your mind to possibilities. You want to open up your mind to possibilities, to options, to getting yourself to thinking bigger, brighter, broader. And so you can just begin to get a feel for this. And then you lift the leader in you goes, yeah, that's right. I do want to buy a book. This is not a big ask, yes, I do want to get that book. Yes, I do want to take that class. Yes, I do want to do this video. Or yes, I do want to do that show, or that whatever it is that is, on the next steps in that area. Maybe, you want to start becoming a podist, or whatever you call, or a watercolor painter, or something. I mean, a whittler. I mean, you can be a basket weaver. You can have a great garden, but find something to immerse yourself into and just have it be yours. Even if it's like a little sewing studio or a do-it-yourself something. There was a great gal who had like these great do-it-yourself candles, and she had them in, mason jars, and they were really nice, and she had made these and then was just selling them. You could find little things like that you can sell on Etsy, or at your community church, or down at the grocery store, or wherever it is in your town. I mean, you can do these things. Find a little bit of adventure, and then you'll begin to find a sense of belonging, where you fit. And it's okay to recognize and you see yourself there. But oftentimes people are so resistive because this other key individual did not want to see them there, or did not want to accept their truth. They wanted to deny their truth because for whatever reason, it made them look better. It made them feel better. They didn't have the skills. They didn't have the time. They didn't have the intelligence. They didn't have the empathy. They didn't have the willpower. They didn't have the discipline. Whatever it is, they had failed you in some way. And it is what it is. And so that term is becoming so popular now, namaste, namaste, however you want to say it. I've heard it said both ways, but, and so it is. In other words, it is, I accept it, and I drop it. And then just literally allow it to just roll off your gut like, I'm dropping it. And just, once you've held it enough, but if you still want to hold on to the burden for several more years, then gosh darn it, I bet you'll prove it to yourself that you can hold on to this medicine ball of emotional pain, and carry that on for another couple of years because you think it makes you strong, or it gives you substance, or it defines you, your I am. Oh, I'm so angry, whatever it is. People get riled up and then they get juiced by this, and they're just thinking, and then they live their day with this anger and all the hormones of stress just, leaking out into all of your cells, and you're disrespecting your body, even though you think you have to, keep that in check. I mean, understand a little bit about the flow of emotions and which ones sort of go into the engine to get you at what speed, and what throttle, and then which ones don't get you there. But especially key is that belonging, and being able to find yourself in a community, where you can have 2, 3, 5, 10, 100, whatever it is, where you can begin to find some company, and feel that belonging that will restore that feeling. And then as you connect there, you'll see that there was nothing going on over there, or you learned what you learned from that situation in that relationship. Even though you had really strong, you're able to get a good perspective and get security and serenity and peace and maturity just by knowing, okay, and just to know that, that was a real moment, but that you're releasing yourself moving forward. And belonging, I think, is, once you get a little bit more advanced on the healing, that's definitely a good something to consider. Or maybe you just belong being, solitary and on your own and enriching that experience. How can you enrich those experiences for yourself? So we talk about resensitization, doing things with scent, with sound, even if it's very neutral, vanilla type of, like that beautiful calming sea. I tell you, find for yourself. Maybe you like those virtual fireplaces and you've got a big screen TV and you can throw your picture up there with a USB cord, and then next thing you know, you got a 4-foot fire going in your house. Or maybe you've got these ocean waves, from that ocean wave sounds. It's just some really awesome stuff that you can do to enrich then your healing journey, and to make it more memorable for you and provide some continuity and help you to feel a sense of belonging, because you can belong all sorts of different places, especially now in the information age. You can reach and spread out, your roots. Some are deeper, some are broader, some, but, find those areas. And it doesn't mean you have to be intellectual if you're not intellectual, or creative if you don't want to be creative, or what have you. It just means you define it for you, and maybe you start fishing, or maybe you start doing gymnastics again, or ballet again, or just something different, yoga, whatever it is, you find yourself sort of including a little bit more that is, what you've sort of wanted to do. And if you feel that you just want to, read books or something else, then that's fine, but you'll find where you belong. And then being able to grow, though, will give you kind of a feeling that you're better in balance and that you're doing something with yourself. And then you won't start missing those toxic relationships, because you'll be so connected within and then reconnected that other connection doesn't even make sense anymore. You can see things in perspective. It's your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. And I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and please donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Peace out. Have a beautiful day.